So, our next topic is Buddhism. Buddhism, as you know, is a religion which has its origin in India. It was founded by Lord Buddha. It was founded by Lord Buddha. We also know him by the name of Siddhartha. He founded his Buddhism in 6th century BC. 6th century BC. This Buddhism, as you know, has its origin in India, but it became popular in different parts of the world, in Central Asia, Sri Lanka, Thailand and such type of countries. And it practically became almost extinct in the land of its origin. It's something which is very strange in case of this Buddhism. About Buddhism, which was founded by Lord Buddha, let's see a few facts about his life and his beginning. Lord Buddha was born at a place called Lumbini. Lumbini is in present-day Nepal. He was born in 583 BC. His birth is marked by a pillar inscription which was installed by Ashoka, King Ashoka later on. That is known as Romaninde pillar inscription. About Lord Buddha, he belonged to a very rich and royal family. His mother, her name was Maya. She belonged to the royal clan of Koliyas. About Lord Buddha himself, he belonged to the royal Kshatriya clan. Lord Buddha, he belonged to the Kshatriya clan of Kapilavastu. In addition to these, his mother, which was Maya, his father's name was Sudodana. There was also his son, his name was Rahula. When his mother Maya died, he was a child and he was brought up by his sit-up mother. Her name was Prajapati Gautami. Lord Buddha, there were some other personalities associated with him. He was contemporary to Kings Ajatasattu and Bimbisara as well. His favorite disciple was Ananda. Ananda was his favorite disciple. It's said about Lord Buddha that at the age of 29, he left his home because he was moved away by the negativity of this world. When Lord Buddha decided, it's said about him that there were actually 4 sins which motivated him to do so. There were 4 sins which intensified his deep hatred towards the world, and he decided to leave the world. He decided to leave his home altogether at the age of 29. These 4 sins, it's written in history, that these 4 scenes were the scene of old man, a sick man, a dead body, and an ascetic. These different types of identities motivated him and intensified his deep hatred towards the world, and he decided to leave his home at the age of 29. That renunciation, or when he left the home, that part is known in the world of Buddhism as Mahabhinishkrama, that is great renunciation. You have to remember these points from the examination point of view. Great renunciation, the term Mahabhinishkrama is referred to as a situation when he left his homeland. in order to search, in search of truth. What the truth is actually, how to attain nirvana was his main motive. So this was some, this origin and the beginning of life of Lord Buddha. He was known by the name of Siddhartha as Gautama as well. You just remember that. About Lord Buddha, after he left his home, it said about him that he attained enlightenment. He attained enlightenment, or the knowledge, enlightenment at Gaya or Bodh Gaya. It's a place probably in Bihar. He attained enlightenment at Gaya, and his first sermon, he delivered his first sermon at Sarnath, which is in modern day Banaras. Alright. Then he started to involve deep into the fields of various religions which were prevailing at that time. He was also dissatisfied with the Brahminical domination or the rituals and sacrifices which had become an integral part of the Hinduism. He started to have some kind of criticism towards those rituals and sacrifices, those yajnas. He founded a religion called Buddhism. In that background, in the prevailing social religious customs of the Hinduism, which was marked by rituals, sacrifices and yajnas, he founded this Buddhism, he founded the Buddhism in that background, and he gave various teachings to this Buddhism, which had become the baseline of that Buddhism since then. Now, what were the teachings? What were the teachings of Lord Buddha? What are the teachings of Buddhism in its original form? Although later on it got divided into various sects, which we will come across later on. So, what are the teachings of Buddhism, or what are the teachings of Lord Buddha in their original form? So, first important teaching of Buddhism is what Lord Buddha stated: Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths. Lord Buddha states that. What are these Four Noble Truths? The Four Noble Truths are that the world is full of sorrow. World is full of sorrow. The cause of sorrow is desire. Desire. And if these desires are eliminated, all sorrows will be ended. This is the third noble truth. And it can be done by following the middle path, which we call as eightfold middle path. Eightfold middle path. Ashtana Marga in a typical language. Eightfold middle path was emphasized upon by Lord Buddha, that what actually a human being, a person, needs to be done to come across all the world, all the problems he is facing, and to lead a stable life and to attain the nirvana. This eightfold middle path, as Lord Buddha described it, used to say that there must be a right aim. Right aim. There must be a right knowledge. Okay, this is this eightfold middle path. Yeah, there must be the right aim. There must be the right knowledge. Then there must be the right vision. Okay, there must be the right effort. There must be the right effort. Then there must be the right awareness. There must be the right awareness. Right awareness. There must be the right meditation. There must be the right meditation, right action. There must be the right action and right livelihood. And right livelihood. So this is the eightfold middle path which Lord Buddha emphasized upon. And this eightfold middle path, he used to say that this is very essential in order to attain the nirvana or the salvation. So this is the first important teaching of Lord Buddha, which is known as 4 noble truths. Then his second important teaching is that he believed in the theory of karma. He believed in the theory of karma. He used to say that man is the arbiter of his own destiny and one can attain a better life if he is doing good deeds in this life, and one actually the progress of a person can be retarded if he is doing bad in this life. Okay, so the man is the arbiter of his own destiny. He can be a good, he can be a good human, he can be a good person only if he is doing good in this life, and his next life depends upon what he actually is doing in this life. So this is the karma theory. He believes in that. He was against the caste system. He was against the rituals and unnecessary sacrifices. He believed in equality. So all such kind of things he was against, and they formed the important teachings of this Buddhism. Then again, his another important emphasis, another important focus, his teachings, that was that he believed in the high degree of ethics. High degree of ethics. He believed in the high degree of ethics. Lord Buddha used to say that a man should base his life upon the truth, upon purity, charity, and every human being should follow the 4 virtues, four qualities, जो qualities एक human being के अंदर होनी चाहिए जिससे उसकी life अच्छी बनती है. Those 4, he emphasizes upon those 4 cardinal virtues, you can say. That is, what are those virtues? He believed in love, that's Maitri. He believed in Maitri, love. He believed in, are you getting me? He believed in Upesika. He believed in Mudita. He believed in Karuna. These are the 4 cardinal virtues which Lord Buddha emphasizes upon. Karuna means compassion. He believed in compassion. He believed in Mudita. That means joy on others' success. आपको गुस्सा नहीं आएगा. You should always feel happy when a person attains success. Joy at others' success. That means Mudita. He believed in that thing. Joy at others' success. Then Upesika, it is equanimity. He believed in these kinds of sayings, and he believed in these kind of things, and he used to propagate these ideas among the people. This is important as far as the teachings of Buddhism is concerned. This ethics, Buddhism believes in high degree of ethics, and a common man was asked not to lie, not to steal, not to have sexual relations outside his marriage, not to take alcohol, not to do anything which harms any person. So these kind of ethics form an important component of the teachings of Buddhism, which you have to remember. Then again, as far as the teachings of Buddhism are concerned, again we have another important teaching. This we can write down the 5th teaching of Buddhism. Lord Buddha he did not believe in the existence of God. Or moreover, अगर हम कुछ कह सकते हैं, the more we can say is that he actually was agnostic. We can use the term agnostic. It's practically said that he did not believe in the existence of God, but some historians are saying that he can be termed as agnostic. Agnostic means one who neither accepts or denies the existence of God. So you can use this term for him. He believed in that he was having the agnostic attitude towards the God. So it was also an important teaching of Buddhism, which was accepted by his followers. He neither believed in the existence of soul. Buddhism didn't, in its original form, it didn't believe in the existence of soul. Lord Buddha used to say that the universe is actually soulless. There is no soul at all. A person who believes in the existence of soul is actually ignorant. So these were some important teachings of Buddhism which were given by Lord Buddha and which were continued by his followers, and they formed an integral part of the teachings, the teachings and the religious texts of the Buddhism. Then there are various other things which are associated with the Buddhism in India. About Lord Buddha, I forgot to tell you one thing, that he actually died. Why did he die? He died at a place that's called Kundagrama. Kundagrama. It is in Vaishali, right? Is it right? Kundagrama, Vaishali. So if you are to Vaishali, if you are to give the date about his death, so there is actually a controversy, but usually we are saying it was 463 BC when he died. There may be some variation in the dates in different books. Some books are saying there may be some 10 to 20 years of variation in the books, but it is something which I have make sure to give a definite conclusion. 460 he died at a place called this Kundagrama near Vaishali. Okay. So there are a few other things which are associated with the Buddhism, which are very important from the examination point of view. One important thing, let's go through the texts of Buddhism, Buddhist texts, Buddhist literature. Buddhist texts and Buddhist literature in their original form, when Lord Buddha was there, after at least 100 to 200 years after the death of Buddha, these Buddhist texts were written in Pali language, and they are commonly referred to as Tripitakas. Actually, tri means three, Pitakas means baskets. Okay, the literature, whatever was written during those days, that was written on the palm leaves, and those leaves were kept in the baskets, and that's why we call them the Tripitakas, 3 baskets. These form the core component of the Buddhist literature, Buddhist religious literature, and these Tripitakas are one important Tripitaka, the first important Tripitaka that we call as the Vinaya Pitaka, right? Vinaya Pitaka. It is one Pitaka, one book, one religious book which is written in Pali language. Then second book is Sutta Pitaka. The third book, it is Abhidhamma Pitaka. And these books, if you are, what is the subject matter of these books, you just remember this Vinaya Pitaka, it deals with the various rules. Code of conduct and procedures, which are Buddhist, a monk or nun was उसको ये follow करना था, ये सब विनय पिटका में लिखा हुआ है. Okay, then again we have another important book, this called as Sutta Pitaka. This Sutta Pitaka actually contains the various discourses. It contains the various discourses and sermons which were delivered by Buddha to his followers. So this is the subject matter of Sutta Pitaka. Then Abhidhamma Pitaka, it contains the philosophical, it contains philosophical discussions, philosophical discourses. So this is about the religious texts of the Buddhism, which are actually 3 books: Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka. They are written in Pali. Just remember this thing. The language in which these books are written, it's Pali. Okay. So it was about the Buddhist texts, which is an important component from the examination point of view. Don't forget to remember this Pali. I have often seen the question that in which language these books were written. So you just write down, mark that option, Pali there. Now there's one more aspect which is associated with Buddhism, that's Buddhist Sangha. Buddhist Sangha, okay? So Buddhist Sangha was an institution where, actually Buddhist followers were of 3 kinds. Buddhist followers were of 3 kinds. The followers of Buddhism were of 3 kinds. The Buddhist monks were known as bhikshus. These were monks. Then we have upasikas. Upasikas. Upasikas were the household laymen. These were upasikas. Then we had bhikshunis. They were the nuns. Bhikshunis were the nuns. Upasikas, household laymen. Bhikshunis were the nuns. So these were three kinds of followers which the Buddhism had. It was primarily for these bhikshus that these Buddhist sanghas were established. These sanghas were the institutions in which these bhikshus, they gathered, they discussed the various religious aspects, they discussed it, and they preached it, their doctrines to the people. They were trained at, these bhikshus were trained at in this, these sanghas, in these institutions, in these Buddhist sanghas. And these bhikshunis, nuns, they had their separate sanghas as well. There were separate sanghas meant for the nuns, women, and meant for the these monks, which were the men followers of the Buddhism. And this Buddhist sangha had an important role to play in the spread of Buddhism. Although it later on became the cause for the decline as well, but it had a great role to play in the spread of Buddhism. They were following various democratic procedures when a new person was entered into the was made to enter into the sangha. He was trained there. He was trained as how to live the life. They used to carry few things only with them, these monks or the persons who were living in this sangha. They used to have this yellow dress only, a razor, and and a bowl, nothing else. So they used to have nothing with them except some 3 or 4 things which were essential for their survival. So they had to eliminate all the desires which were inside them, and they had to lead a spiritual kind of life. Furthermore, if there was any kind of fault, any kind of defect which they used to involve in, जो कोई अगर उनमें कोई गलती होती थी, they used to have confessions in those Buddhist sanghas. So remember, these Buddhist sanghas, this was another important component of the Buddhist religion. So you just have some kind of idea about it. We will come to another aspect of Buddhism now. I am telling you here what's important from the examination point of view. So it's actually, we will go through the various Buddhist councils. Okay? Various Buddhist councils. From time to time after the death of Lord Buddha, various Buddhist councils were held at different places of the country. And their main motive was to keep the sacredness of the Buddhism intact. So 4 such Buddhist councils were held at 4 different places. The first Buddhist council was held immediately after the death of Lord Buddha. It was held at Rajgarh. It is in present-day Bihar. It was held at Rajgarh. It was held at a time when there was a king named as Ajatasattu. He patronized actually Ajatasattu. Okay. It was chaired, the chairmanship of this first Buddhist council, it was chaired by Mahakassapa. So this is some important information about the first Buddhist council. Then we have the second Buddhist council. Second Buddhist council, it was held at Vaishali. It was presided over by a person called as Sabakami. But this Buddhist council, second Buddhist council, is important, which was held at least 100 years after the death of Lord Buddha. Why is it important? Because there had some differences which had started to occur in the Buddhist Sangha, जो मैंने आपको अभी कहा. In the Buddhist Sangha, there were actually 2 groups which had some serious differences within themselves. And with the passage of time, during this second Buddhist council, there were some controversies. Which these controversies led to the division of this Buddhist Sangha. यहाँ पे division होता है. And this Buddhism got divided into two separate divisions. One was known as Sthavaravadeens. Another important Another important group which came into existence. Another division, Sthavaravadeens. Then we call them as Mahasanghikas. So this split occurred in Second Buddhist Council. And this Sthavaravadeens, they were the conservatives, they were the orthodox, and these were unorthodox. Remember this information. Orthodox. Then it's important information about Second Buddhist Council. Then we have the Third Buddhist Council. Third Buddhist Council was held under the auspices, under the patronage of King Ashoka, जो हम later on पढ़ेंगे. Ashoka, it was held at a place which is known as Patliputra, the modern day Patna, Bihar, Patliputra, and it was presided over by Mogaliputra Tisa. It was chaired by him, Mogaliputra Tisa. And now here, some important decisions were taken, like the missionaries were sent to various parts of the continent. Like Ashoka himself sent his own children to Sri Lanka in order to propagate Buddhism there. That's why we have their Buddhism nowadays. Ashoka played an important role in the spread of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Okay, Ashoka was himself a great propagator and a promoter of Buddhism, and he has an immense contribution towards the spread and propagation of the Buddhist ideas. जब हम अशोका का अलग से टॉपिक पढ़ेंगे, you will surely get a clarification about him. Then we had the Fourth Buddhist Council. This Fourth Buddhist Council was held at Kashmir. There is a place called Kundalwana. So it was held, this Fourth Buddhist Council was held at Kashmir. At that time the king was Kanishka, an important Kushan king. It was held under his patronage, this Fourth Buddhist Council. And to my understanding, it's the most important Buddhist council, which was held at Kashmir under the patronage of this Kanishka. It was chaired by Vasumitra. His name was Vasumitra. What were the important decisions which were taken in this Fourth Buddhist Council? Some important developments occurred. Here the Buddhism formally got divided into two major divisions. One important division is this Mahayana, and the other important division is Hinayana. Okay, this Mahayana is also known as the greater vehicle. This Hinayana, now Mahayanism and this Hinayanism. Let's talk a little bit about Hinayanism and Mahayanism, the two major divisions of Buddhism which erupted during the Fourth Buddhist Council. First of all, the first major division, the first major sect of Buddhism is Hinayanism. Okay, Hinayanism. Those followers of Lord Buddha, those followers of Buddhism who believed in the original teachings of Lord Buddha, and they do not want any relaxation in those teachings, that is known as the sect of Hinayanism. They believed in the original teachings of Buddha. They did not want it to move from any kind of such teachings. So वो sect जो है, that sect is known as the Hinayanism. However, there is another sect that is known as Mahayanism. Mahayana sect of Buddhism. It is that sect which drifted away from the original teachings of Buddhism. And this Mahayanism and Hinayanism, this split occurred during the Fourth Buddhist Council. Fourth Buddhist Council, which was held under the patronage of Kanishka at Kashmir, in Kashmir. So differences were already there. I told you that during the Second Council, Sthavaravadeens and Mahasanghikas, that was the first split in the Buddhist Sangha. Those differences, they formally came into existence. Those formally came to, they surfaced during the Fourth Buddhist Council, and the legal, the formal split occurred during the fourth council in the form of Hinayanism and Mahayanism. Now this Hinayanism, they believed in the original teachings of Lord Buddha. This Mahayanism, they actually innovated few practices which were not taught by Lord Buddha himself. So what is now this Mahayana sect of Buddhism, or the greater wheel? This Mahayana sect of Buddhism is that sect which was given the due recognition, which was given the due intellectual base by a scholar, by a Buddhist scholar, that is known as Nagarjuna. This Nagarjuna provided it the intellectual and the ideological base, and the important this important belief of this Mahayana sect of Buddhism is the concept what we know as the Bodhisattvas. What is this Bodhisattva? Bodhisattva, you can define it as, the Bodhisattvas are those persons who were progressing, who were moving towards the attainment of Buddhahood. They were perfect to attain the Nirvana, but they delayed. They delayed to attain the Nirvana in order to help others to attain Nirvana. Bodhisattvas can be defined as those persons who are actually the proponents of Buddhism. They help others in the attainment of Nirvana. They do not live for themselves. They try to help others in the attainment of Nirvana, or the salvation, or the attainment of Buddhahood. So that concept is known as this Bodhisattvas. Okay, so this was their principal belief. They believed in this concept of Bodhisattvas. It is said that Lord Buddha himself, was Bodhisattvas for many generations, for many, his many incarnations were in the form of Bodhisattvas before he actually became this final Buddha, before he attained the Nirvana. Okay, so furthermore, the religious texts of Hinayanas, if they were in the Pali language, Mahayana religious texts were in the Sanskrit language. This is another important difference. Sanskrit language में जो है इनके टेक्स्ट जो है महायानास के वो लिखे गए थे. They believed this Mahayana sect. They believed in the processions. They believed in prayers. They believed in this worshipping the images of Buddha. They believed in worshipping the image of Buddha. You can say that they defied Buddha. They considered Buddha as the God. They defied, they worshipped his various images. You can say that they believed in idol worship as well. They worshipped the idols of Lord Buddha. So this is another important, this feature, tenet of this Mahayana sect of Buddhism. Okay, and this Mahayanas, if the Hinayanas believed that the world is full of sorrow, Mahayanas believed that the world is not full of sorrow. They had an optimistic attitude towards life. Okay, they did not believe in the extreme kind of renunciation of the world. They believed something in between. We don't have to be too comfortable in our lives, and we don't have to be too renouncing in our lives. Something हमें जो है ना ज़्यादा extreme हमें luxurious living जो है वो गुजारनी है, और ना हमने जो है extreme harsh जो है पूरा ascetic life जो है वो गुजारनी है. Something in between. So it was the belief of this Mahayana sect of Buddhism. There is no doubt another important sect, not important, somehow that had the influence at one time upon the India. So that is Vajrayana sect of Buddhism. Vajrayana sect of Buddhism. Vajrayana sect of Buddhism was another important sect of Buddhism during those times, and this sect believed in the Tantric philosophy. It was based upon the Tantric philosophy. It's closely associated with the Tantras kind of thing. So it believed in this Tantras, and they had this Vajrayana sect of Buddhism believed in such kind of things which later on came to be criticized for being very, very immoral and unethical. Okay, this also was one of the sect of this Buddhism. Okay, then we have this another important concept which is associated with this Buddhism. It is Nalanda University. Nalanda University को आपको थोड़ा तो जो है जानना है. Nalanda University. Nalanda University is important university, a Buddhist monastery. It was actually a Buddhist monastery. It was actually a Buddhist vihara, which is closely associated with Buddhism. It is said that Lord Buddha himself visited once to this Nalanda University. This university has a great role to play in the spread of Buddhism. The students in this university were not only from India, but they were from the other parts of the Asia. It is said that there were some 10,000 students who used to study, there in this Nalanda University. Let me give some information about the Nalanda University as well, because it is closely associated with Buddhism and it has an important role to play in the history of Buddhism in India. And about this Nalanda University, let me give you some facts. Nalanda University. Nalanda University is a university which is some 90 kilometers away from Patna in Bihar. So this university was when it was founded in the 6th or 5th century BC. There is no certainty about the date of this Nalanda University as to when it was founded. And there is also not a single ruler of India, not a single king of India whose name can be associated with this university, who can be regarded as the founder of this university. But it is usually said that it's the Gupta dynasty. It is the Gupta dynasty which during the time period of which it was founded. Gupta dynasty में इसका promotion होता है. Its existence was already there, but Gupta dynasty Gupta dynasty का नाम इस university के foundation के साथ जोड़ा जाता है. This was the famous Buddhist university, and it continued for many centuries as the most important university of those times in the whole Asian continent. The students which came to this Nalanda University were from many parts of the Asia. They came from the countries of Southeast Asia, China, and all such kinds of countries, and various Chinese travelers also visited this university. Later on, when we will come across Harsha, the times of Harsha, we will see how what kind of information Hyun Sang is giving. Hyun Sang has given some interesting account about this university. Hyun Sang. This Hyun Sang was a Chinese traveler who visited India during the time of Harsha. And Harsha के टाइम पे ये Hyun Sang जो है Harsha के he gives us the account of Harsha as well as the account of the Nalanda University. By his statements, if we are to believe his statements, he is saying that the revenues of hundreds of villages was spent upon the upkeep of this university, and this university attracted students from various parts of the globe. So this university assumes an important place in the history of Buddhism. So just remember that it may come into any competitive examination in the form of multiple choice questions. So you may have some idea about this university since it is associated with Buddhism. No doubt nowadays it has been transformed into a world-class global university. There are subjects which are not only associated with Buddhism, but there are many other subjects of the modern sciences and social humanities which are being taught there in the Nalanda University, as was the case with the BC era. There were the various subjects which were taught there in this Nalanda University. Anyways, moving on. Now, let's see what actually were the causes which led to the decline of Buddhism in India. As I told you at the beginning that Buddhism was founded, it has its origin in India, but unfortunately it has practically gone extinct in India and has and is able to survive in other parts of the world. But in the land of in its homeland, it's not up to the scale जो इसको होना चाहिए था. So what are the causes for this decline? Let us see. Causes for the decline of Buddhism. Why Buddhism declined in India? Why Buddhism declined in India? There can be many causes. Nothing lives forever in this world. Everything has to die one or the other day. But the causes which led to the decline of Buddhism in India can be that we can enumerate the first cause as the corruption in Sangha. Corruption in Sangha. As I told you that Buddhist monks and nuns, they were organized into sanghas, and these sanghas were the factor which boosted the growth of Buddhism in India. But slowly, but gradually, it started to have some corruption. The wealth, the wealth and women, we can say, the wealth and women entered into this sangha, and they disturbed the moral and ethical aspects of Buddhism. They used to engage in those activities which were against the teachings of Buddhism. And gradually, this corruption, it broke the backbone of this Buddhism. So this was the important factor which led to the decline of Buddhism. Then another important factor, another important cause for the decline of Buddhism was the adoption of Sanskrit. Adoption of Sanskrit language. The religious texts of Buddhism, as I told you, were written in Pali language. And Pali was the language of common people, common masses. When the Buddhist tenets and teachings were taught to the common people in common language, so they were able to understand these teachings, these simple teachings. And they were able to accept its doctrines. So it attracted the followers towards itself. But when Sanskrit was adopted, it was the elite language. It was the language of the upper caste. So it had no mass following. As a result, when Sanskrit was adopted by the Mahayanas, it ultimately, it somehow took away the masses from the message of the various proponents of Buddhism at that time. Okay? Then, third important cause was the division of Buddhism. Division of Buddhism. Division of Buddhism, as I told you, that immediately after the death of Buddha, in the middle of 5th century BC, Buddhism started to have some serious differences. There were various differences between the different groups, between the different sanghas. And by the 4th Buddhist Council, it had started to divide, into at least 18 such sects. We are being saying by some Chinese historians, by Chinese travelers, in some 5th or 6th centuries AD, that there were some angry conflicts between these different sects. So this division of Buddhism into various sects, they used to have serious consequences for the fate of Buddhism in India. It also led to its decline. Okay. Then the fourth important cause is the revival of Hinduism. Revival of Hinduism. Revival of Hinduism. Hinduism came into revive with the foundation of Gupta dynasty in India. The Gupta rulers like Chandragupta and Samudragupta, they performed some policies. They performed some sacrifices. They performed some sacrifices like the Ashwamedha and this other sacrifices, which somehow managed to give this much needed prestige to the Hinduism. They gave it the privilege. They gave some privilege to the Hinduism. The religious literature on Hinduism was written on a massive scale, which provided the confidence to the Hindus at that time. So the defects which were there in the Hinduism, when the Buddhism was founded, those defects were somehow removed by the followers of by the Gupta dynasty. When the defects were no more there, it led to the revival of Hinduism. Okay, so this was another important factor for the decline of what? Buddhism. There is another important factor which led to this decline is that Buddhism, as I told you, it had no faith in God. It had no faith in God. It had no faith in God. When Buddhism had no faith in God, it was something which was radical, and it was unacceptable to the large number of people, because the people were God-fearing, and they didn't want to have this kind of alienation from the God. They wanted to have some understanding on this issue. So when the Buddhism declared that we had, there is no God, they didn't have any faith in the existence of God. So it was radical, and it was something which make the people to think over the basic, over the principles of Buddhism. Okay, then an important other, this cause for its decline is the invasion, foreign invasions, foreign invasions, foreign invasions by Huns and Turks, by Huns and Turks. Turks continued to attack India even after the decline of Gupta dynasty by the in the 6th century AD, and they were able to destroy many sanghas, monasteries and Buddhist viharas at many places of northwestern India. Same was done by Turks when they attacked various universities, including Nalanda University. The Turks, which came into India in the 11th and 12th centuries, they moved as far as in Bengal, when their leader Bakhtiyar Khilji went into the Bengal, and it is said that the library and the monastery at Nalanda that was greatly destroyed, which led to the destruction of thousands and thousands of books on the Buddhist and other aspects, and other subjects. It further, it broke it broke the foothold of Buddhism in India as well. It also led to this decline. All right. So these were some important causes which led to the decline of Buddhism. We can of course talk about various other causes, like you can say that there was this intellectual bankruptcy. You can say that there was intellectual bankruptcy, the scholars bankruptcy. The scholars like this Nagarjuna and Vasumitra, they were no more there now. Yeah, you can say that there was a lack of patronage afterwards, lack of royal patronage afterwards. Lack of royal patronage afterwards, when the kings like Ashoka and kings like Harsha, the Kanishka were no more there, when they needed the patronage. You can say that these causes may have contributed to the decline of Buddhism in India. So it's all about Buddhism. If you have any question, you are free to talk. I'm sure that I will help you to remove all the doubts. Yes, questions please. Any comments, questions? You can